Jay, that's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
The crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
Dave Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
America is football. Football is America.
Football is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass for the moment in time. I don't give a damn. Oh my god.
No!
You love this.
30-27. Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30-20.
Sorry, I just needed a minute. That was rough. I don't even have words, and I need to come up with some. That was rough. That was very, very rough. Not a great night, and we're gonna break it all down. The Broncos get the win, and that is something that we have to keep in mind. It's not going to be pretty every single week. It's just not. That's the reality of it. And sometimes, for whatever reason, another team just has a really great day on what seems to be your worst day. And that's what it felt like today. It felt like this was the best Raiders I've seen all year. Admittedly, haven't been watching a ton of the Raiders, but we have to keep in mind that even though they had a couple losses when Brock Bowers went down, right? They started losing because Brock Bowers is such a big part of that offense. When they were all healthy, they beat the Patriots week 1. I mean, they've competed. And I think it's easy when you get to this part of the season to just dismiss teams because of their record, which is weird because there's hundreds of thousands of people on the internet right now saying that Denver is a fraudulent 8-3. They're fraudulent 8-3, meaning they're not as good as their record. Now, there's only one way to believe something like that. And that is to believe the inverse of that. You can't believe in light if you don't believe in dark. You can't believe in on if there is no off. And you can't believe that a team can be worse than their record if you can't believe that a team can be better than their record. So we know that there are teams that have, sub 500 records that are a tough go every single week. Okay. Now remember, they beat the Patriots week 1. They had a healthy team, came out swinging 20-13. They beat the Chargers by only 11. The Bears beat them by 1 point. And let me just keep note of this. We got Pats win, and then Chargers 11. And Bears won 1 point win. The Colts demolished them. And Titans, they beat the Titans by 10. Chiefs handled them pretty well. The Jags beat them by 1. And then today, the Broncos won by 3. I mean, even the Patriots game was, all the games have been pretty low scoring outside of the 3 games between the Chiefs, Raiders, and Jags. Now, I'm not making excuses. Our offense needs to be better. It does, and that was not a good showing. And I gotta say, like, this is one of those games that you come away from and you just say, man, how can a team get a win with everything that went wrong today? And believe it or not, it has to be encouraging. That has to be the takeaway for every Broncos fan, right? I mean, if you can go out there and play that bad, I mean, Jeremy Crenshaw, the punter, he may become the first player in NFL history to get cut in the middle of a game. That's what I thought around halftime. I mean, this was a very, very rough game for all phases besides the defense. The defense was fine, although that first quarter had me nervous. They were moving pretty well. But let me say this. This needs to be everybody's takeaway. The Broncos have the best record in the NFL, and Bo Nix is playing the worst football of his life. It can only get better from here. And when I say he's playing the worst football of his life, I'm talking about like the last couple games, right? Now, last week, they went against the best defense in the NFL, and they brought that up during the press conference this week leading up to this game, and they were saying, what do you have to do to maybe not wait till the fourth quarter? And he made a joke like, well, it would help if we didn't play the best defense in the NFL. And that was his way of kind of putting cold water on this, saying, hey, I mean, the reason we couldn't move the ball was because they did a really good job defensively. It's not going to be like that every week. And then in comes a Raiders team that has struggled on the defensive side of the ball. And all of a sudden, Denver's offense doesn't look like that great. Now, the reason I think the Raiders played a great game is because we have a sample size. I believe that's large enough. We've played the worst 2 teams in the NFL as far as defense goes. And did the Broncos struggle to score points against the Bengals? They put up 500 yards of offense. It was the most lopsided game this year as, it pertains to yardage on one team to the other. We dominated them. There's no question about it. The Colts, they have, not a great defense. Bo Nix threw 3 touchdown passes in the first half, threw 4 touchdown passes in the game. Now, if you just look at teams, opponents per game, the Raiders are ranked 22nd. They're exactly the same as the Steelers right now. And stop it. And Minnesota. Jesus, scared the shit out of me. Minnesota, with all the credit that they get, right? Cleveland in their defense, Philly, Minnesota, all these teams give up 23 points per game, 23, 24. So this is not like Cincinnati, Dallas, who's given up more than 30 points a game. Okay? I don't know what I mean that. Like the Broncos, when they played the Bengals and the Cowboys, did it look like their offense was struggling at any point? No, they were moving up and down the field the whole time. So I don't want people to think like, okay, the Broncos are struggling on offense against bad defenses even, because it's not true. Today, the Raiders came out and played a really good game defensively. And, we have to leave some room when we're nitpicking a game. We have to leave some room for the other guys get paid too. We can't just be like, no, bump that. We're not even going to consider that. It has to matter. Okay. We scored 21 points on the Eagles. The Eagles have a good defense. You know what I mean? Like, we scored on the Chargers. I just think it's easy to forget that the other guys get paid too, and once in a while, and Sean said in his press conference, hey, they did some stuff that we haven't seen all year, and it worked. Clearly. At least we have this on film. And I personally believe that the way the Raiders have been not super threatening right this year, I believe Sean has plays that he wants to keep in his back pocket. Could I call those? Yes. Do I want to against the Raiders when we're playing the Chiefs next week? No. And it got a little vanilla out there. And I think Sean, deep down, hit a point in this game where he was okay with winning 10-7. And, all of us would be upset about it for a day. But by next week, it's like, oh, do you remember the Raiders game? Yeah, that was a boring one. No one's going to. Did you get a win or a loss? That's what matters. If Denver would have lost this game, it would be chaos. But they didn't. They won. And I think the other thing that we have to keep in mind is what this team has really done, because I feel like they're getting to, now we have a mini bye going into Kansas City, which was the reason that Sean, I guess, declined to have the bye week after the international game. But we have to understand, like, this has been brutal. And Denver hasn't lost one game. All right, we after the Chargers game, we played the Bengals. All right, Monday Night Football, we smoked them. Then we got on a plane, went to Philly. We beat the Eagles in their house, didn't come back home, went straight across the pond, played a game in London, came back to the United States, no bye week, played the Giants that Sunday, with the Giants coming off a mini bye of their own because they played the Eagles the Thursday night before. So we go away game, out of the country, come back on a regular week, even though it was anything but regular. And the Giants came in with extra rest. And it did look like Denver was caught lagging for 3 quarters, and they finally woke up in the fourth quarter. But at that point, it was like, go look at the record of teams that come home from London and don't get bye week. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, the Jets were in London. The Packers were in London, and they came home, and they didn't get a bye week. And I took the Jets to beat the Packers. And it had to have been 2 years ago because Rodgers wasn't in that game. And the Jets won. And everybody was like, how did you predict that? And I'm like, came home from London without a bye. It is a major deal. Major deal. There's so much logistics that go into internationally traveling, passports, the admin side of things. It's like, it's hard to just focus on your game plan. And I get it. It's like the other team has to deal with that stuff too. And I'm not talking about the game in London. I'm talking about the game after London if you don't take the bye. But Denver found a way to win that game. Okay, they got it done. And then the Cowboys game, Denver smoked them. And it was like, okay, that was a good win. All right. But then last week, right now, this is the part of the season where a bye week really comes in handy. You're starting to get injuries. Patrick Surtain got hurt. I mean, it was not a coincidence that our injury report was a little bit longer than it had been any other week going into this game. We had some injuries. You saw Jonathan Cooper on that list. You saw a lot of guys on that list. A lot of important players, I'll add. And, most of them played, but they're dinged up right now. They're banged up. Their bodies are sore. And then you're telling them, hey, we're going to play you again on a short week. But not only that, after the Cowboys game, it's time for a bye. They don't get it, but their bodies are ready for it. You're going to go on the road, and you're going to play the most physical, violent team in the NFL. Did you know that, I think it was 2 years ago, that there was a crazy record where the week after a team played the 49ers, they were 0-15 or 0-16. So they would go play the 49ers, right? Whatever happens there, we're not talking about that. The week after, that team loses, whoever played the 49ers. It happened every week for the whole year. And it's because they were such a violent, physical team, right? The Texans are a super violent, physical team. And not only did you have to play them when your body and the team needed a bye, then you're playing Denver on a short week after. This was a recipe for a disaster, and we got away with a win. And I think that needs to be a major takeaway. Now, the game itself, a lot of mental errors, and I was pissed off watching this game. I mean, I haven't been that mad this year. I say that because it's fresh, but I'm sure I was this mad with the Jets game. And I don't know, there's something about the Giants fan. I live stream these games, so you can go verify that I'm not lying, but I really felt like we were going to come back in that game. Did I think we were going to score 33 points in the fourth? No. But, we were down 19-0, and we had the ball in the 20 going into the fourth. Did I think we could get a quick touchdown and overcome a 12-point deficit? Yeah. Did it turn into much more than that because the Giants would continue to score? I didn't think that was going to happen, but all in all, I trust this team. I really do. And this was the kind of game where, we shut the Raiders out for 3 quarters. No points, second, third, fourth quarter. I mean, how many games have we played 4 games where we hadn't even given up a single touchdown? And then there's other games where we did give up a touchdown, but it's like this game, 1 touchdown. It's incredible what this defense is doing, but that doesn't excuse all of the other stuff. And that's what we're going to talk about now. Some of the stuff that I got that I'm just upset about this team and things that they need to get fixed. Looks like I started on the 3rd drive. The penalties. Oh my God, the penalties were unexcusable. There's, it gets sloppy out there at times. You have a bad game, but this has been going on all week. I can't blame this on fatigue or a bye week. They had 11 penalties today. 11 penalties. That is a major issue. Denver, Chicago, and Jacksonville are the 3 worst teams in the NFL when it comes to penalty. Denver's giving up 8.3 penalties per game on average. Okay? That is not good. We got Sev Locks, Hood Tails, boring game, but best NFL record right now, top of the AFC West, 8-2. That's right, baby. Boring game, but on top. Best record, best defense, AFC leaders. Let's go 8-2, baby. I love it. With that said, though, we have to clean up these penalties. We can't commit 11 penalties in the small sample size that we got of our new tight end. Not great. He had a couple penalties. I didn't see much of him after. I'm blanking on Mercedes Lewis, right? He had, I think, 2 penalties on the first 3 drives, and they were costly. there was a holding penalty. And it's like, look, their punter had us starting on our 1 yard line twice. You can't commit penalties when you already are giving the Broncos that type of field position. And I think that's another thing, like, as a fan, that you have to like take into account is, yeah, I mean, the Broncos, when you are only operating on, within that amount of space, there's only so many plays you can call. You don't want to drop Bo Nix back and, have long developing plays and risk taking a safety. So it kind of shortens your playbook, these quick outs, slants, flat routes, or run plays. And the defense knows that. And they played the edges, they played the short stuff, they stopped the run, and we got 3 and out because we can't go for it on 4th down that close to our own end zone. And it was that's just what it was. Like, I think there was a lot of drives that it felt like, man, we need better field position, and things will go better for us. And that was kind of true, but it still wasn't resulting in points. Obviously, we got the 1 touchdown. But I felt like at other times when we weren't backed up, we were able to move the football, and then a penalty would happen and a drive would stall out. And that's the reason why the penalties have to go, because it seemed like every time we were getting into some kind of groove and it was like, okay, here we go, we would get a terrible penalty and it was like, never mind, punt. And we just can't have that. So some of the stuff I took notes, we had the holding on the 3rd drive on 2nd down that turned it into 2nd and 20. 3rd and 7, we had an offsides on Nick Benito. That was actually Jonathan Cooper. So that turned a 3rd and 7 into a 3rd and 2. They would end up punting anyway, which is good for us. But still, like, another team, they're going to convert that 3rd and 2. Terrible punts. Jeremy Crenshaw, terrible. I don't know what happened today. We were worried about this in the preseason. We saw how inconsistent he is as a punter. Like, when he gets a hold of one, he'll send it 80 yards, but then he'll do what he did today. Like, the fundamentals, like, they slow motioned the football hitting the foot. And look, I'm not a punter, but you don't have to be to see that he's not even dropping the ball, making contact with his foot the right way. We've been watching punters punt our whole life. That's not what it's supposed to look like. That's what it looks like when I try to punt the ball. This is a professional punter. Like, we need him to get more consistent, and I believe in him because I've seen him booted 80 yards, but it makes it really hard to, like, get behind him when he has games like today. Luckily, it didn't cost us. But like I said, there's a lot of things we did today that if we did in 10 days from now, they will cost us the game. And I think that's the moral of the story. And Mike Vrabel said it best last week with the Patriots, kind of a sloppy win over Atlanta. But he said, it's nice to, we want to learn from our wins so we don't have to learn from losses. And that's it. Like, that's got to be the mentality of this game. Okay. We had a terrible punt out of bounds, player out of bounds. Oh yeah. Then we had a penalty on that punt because there was a player out of bounds, gave him even better field position. A Bronco was out of bounds on the coverage. Nick Benito was injured for a second. I saw him come off the field. He went into the tent and everything checked out. So he was good. We had 4th and 5. They decided that they were going to go for it on 4th and 5. And Talanoa Hufanga, I mean, is this guy not incredible? This guy just makes amazing plays every single week. Seriously, he's a close, I mean, it's clear with Surtain out, he's the MVP of the defense. But even with Surtain, I would argue he's close. He's not as valuable as a guy that can shut down your number 1 receiver, but he is He's invaluable to this defense. It's amazing. It seems like once a game he runs a safety blitz, and look, teams run safety blitzes every game to work every single time, and that has to do with how well he's disguising it, how quick he is, how instinctual he is when it comes to like timing the snap. He doesn't get penalties, he doesn't jump off sides, he flies around, he hits hard. The play always stops when it gets to his level, but the play never gets to his level. He gets to the play's level. I mean, he is just an amazing signing, probably the best defensive signing of any free agent this offseason. Nicotine break. Respecting legs lead to big. Oh yeah, okay. So they ran a play and Bo Nix was rolling out to his right. I believe this was on the scoring drive. He was rolling out to his right, and Pat Bryant was kind of coming across the field with Bo. So they were kind of running here. And there were two guys that had the responsibility of Pat Bryant. But because there was all that open grass in front of Bo, they had to respect Bo as a runner. They creeped up a little bit. And I was even fooled. I thought Bo was going to run it. I was screaming too. I was like, run it, run it. And as soon as they came up a little bit, he threw it to Pat Bryant, 35, 40-yard completion. That is what having a dual threat quarterback gets you. Those type of plays right there. Big play by Pat Bryant. Seems like he's actually starting to make one or two of those every single game. And, just think about the jump Troy Franklin took from his rookie year to this year. And imagine what Pat Bryant's going to do, because Pat Bryant's already further along than where Troy Franklin was. And I think this is the other part. I actually didn't think we needed another weapon. I know there was a lot of fans that did. Personally, I like the team that we have, and I don't feel like we deserve more weapons. We're not even getting the guys we already have involved. Now you want to give up draft picks for a receiver? We've been doing really good with these draft picks. Which one do you want to give up? RJ Harvey? You want to give up Pat Bryant? You know what I mean? You want to give up Bo Nix? Like, look at what we're building. Why do you want to not only give away draft picks, but then give away a large amount of money when we can build this thing from inside? Stay patient. Let these guys get a better connection. Let them grow. What if we would have just decided after year 2 that, fuck it, we need Von Miller back. We're not getting a good enough rush. And then Von comes back on a 4-year deal. Let's say he was in his prime. Let's say we did what the Packers did, right? Fuck it, we're not getting a good enough pass rush. We're going to get Micah Parsons in here. Let's say we did that 2 years ago, not last year, the year before. So Von Miller left in 2021. Let's say it was Sean Payton's first season, 2023. Okay. Now we have Micah Parsons, $47 million a year. This is what the fans want. They want the big, sexy signing with all the money. Here's the thing. Nobody would have wanted that if they knew that in year 3, Nick Bonito was going to break out, have multiple pick sixes, and come in third place for Defensive Player of the Year. But fans forgot about him. They had given up. There wasn't even on the radar. It's like we draft a player, and if they're not exceptional immediately, then they get the following year. And even if they're a little bit better the following year, if they're not exceptional, it's like we need to look elsewhere, right? And I just think that's not the move. I think we need to be more patient in giving our guys time to develop. And we have all of these young receivers, whether it's Marvin Mims, Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin. We have the veteran in Sutton leading them. We just got Evan Ingram involved. RJ Harvey is a very dynamic guy. They love him for his receiving ability. We got a lot of mouths to feed, and like to bring in like a Jalen Waddle it just seems unnecessary because like you don't even know what Troy Franklin's going to become. And some of this is on Bo Nix. Like Bo Nix is missing open receivers, and we got open receivers dropping passes. Like there's blame to go around, but it's year 2 and it's his rookie year for 2 of those guys, and it's Evan Ingram's first year in the system. Like, how do you know we need anything? And how do you know that whoever we go get is going to just come in and look as good as they look with their 3rd year with Mike McDaniels, 4th year with Mike McDaniels, and they're going to look that good immediately in their first game with Sean Payton? It doesn't make any sense. I think Denver did the right thing. Unless if Jalen Waddle was like, hey, they're going to let him go for like a 3rd round pick, I'm not saying I would have been against it. But once you start talking about giving up 1st round picks and that contract, it's like, okay, so does this mean that we're not going to be able to, pay some of our other players? How does this affect other guys on this team? Because I'm not done with Troy Franklin. Personally, I love the jump he made from year 1 to year 2. And if he does another one, I think he could be a top receiver in this league. So overall, Denver decided not to do anything. And I forgot why exactly that got brought up. Because Pat Bryant, he's getting more involved in the offense. He had a big play. Malcolm Roach, big sack from him. Zach Allen had a sack. Him and Nick Bonito, they kind of sandwiched Geno Smith. And I saw that multiple times today. So I created a term for Zach Allen coming up the middle, Nick Bonito coming around the edge, and the quarterback gets between them both. We're going to call it getting Nick Allen. We can't call it getting Zach Allen because that's just one guy. But when Nick Bonito and Zach Allen combine for a sack and they sandwich the quarterback, that's what we're going to call it. You just got Nick Allen. I love it. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But dropping the ball again. The drops. I'm not even going to talk about specifics because we could talk about the interceptions or the 3rd downs or, Cortland Sutton not even jumping for one of them. I'm not even sure what he was thinking. Like there was that one that Bo Nix underthrew, but at the same time, it looked like Troy Franklin could have had a chance, but I think he stopped a little early, misjudged the ball, still underthrown. That interception that Bo Nix threw, that was the 2nd worst interception I've ever seen him throw. And the first worst was against the Cowboys on the opening drive, where you're like, what was that? Like, who is he throwing it to? It's just like a total, like, okay, I don't even know how. If you paid me $1 million to defend that, I don't know how to. Like, it was that bad. So there's been other interceptions where like people have been coming on Bo about, and I'm like, I actually think that's more on the receiver. I played receiver, and there was the one, what was it, 2 weeks ago, or maybe even last week? No, I think it might have been last week, to Cortland Sutton. He was running a go route, and Bo threw it, and I felt like Cortland Sutton was being kind of passive with his body, and the safety just came around, had enough time, and just plucked it right out of the air. And I'm like, Sutton, you got to be like able to notice, like, hey, I got a safety trying to close in, plant a foot and use your big body and go up there and meet the football. Don't wait for it to come to you. And it felt like stealing candy from a baby. I'm like, you're way too big for that to happen. At the worst, it should have been an incompletion. But there's interceptions like that out there. Today there was an interception because of a dropped pass. And at the end of the year, they just look at the number. They don't have context to go along with these things. But I'm just saying, I don't think all of the interceptions we've seen this year are on Bo. But today, the first one was, and that was one of two that I'm like, that's just terrible. So good job though on the defense. Malcolm Roach making plays. The drop in the balls sucks. We had Mike McGlinchey. I'm not sure. The offensive line was ass today. And I don't know if it's because Quinn Marinez had to go to the locker room dealing with an illness and he never came back. So this offensive line just doesn't play together. The timing was off. We had a false start by Mike McGlinchey. We had a snap infraction, which we'll get to in a little bit. Riley Moss ended up, this penalty was the reason that we had to punt it to them. And then even so, Denver's using their timeouts. First down, Denver or the Raiders run the ball. Denver calls a timeout because Denver's trying to go into halftime scoring because they get the ball to start the second half. They're calling their timeouts. Everything goes perfect, except one thing. On second down, the Raiders, actually it was third down, I believe. The Raiders threw a 40, probably a 40-yard bomb, 45-yard bomb to one of their receivers. Forget who it is. Riley Moss was beat so bad that he was chasing a ghost. And this ball was thrown so perfectly that he could not have walked down the field and handed him this football any better. And he just dropped it. Like, those are the plays we cannot forget about because, like I said, against the Chiefs, against the better teams in this league, we can't have that. And that wasn't the first time Riley Moss got beat. He was beat a second time, and the second time it was caught, and it was a big completion. But people would have been a lot more upset that was also incomplete. And this thing's lagging on me. Let me close some of these. These tabs. This is what happens when I open too many tabs. Close, 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 close. Okay. That should be better. That should be better now. Yeah. Okay. So too many drops, too many bad punts, too many penalties. We had a timeout. This is another thing that bothered me so much. Denver, they had a timeout on the, third down, and the Raiders, Geno Smith takes a sack, and there's like 12 seconds, right? Denver could have called a timeout and forced them to punt it. I mean, anything can happen on a punt return. Like, I could understand if you're the punting team not wanting to punt it, but why wouldn't you, as the person that's going to receive this punt, why wouldn't you call the timeout? It's like if they want to get cute and, run a play where the punter runs around for a second and then punts it out of, like, okay, but still running a play, there is a chance, especially when they're doing something unorthodox like that they screw up or make a mistake, or maybe we just have some mile high magic. Like, what do you have to lose? I mean, there was so much time, unless Sean just didn't trust his punt returner to not muff it. And he didn't want to set him up with a quick field goal, because 12 seconds is about enough time for, even if it's muffed and recovered by the Raiders, that they could kick a field goal. I'm going to go with that. That's probably why, because Bandy, the guy returning the punts, he muffed one last week, and maybe he just doesn't have faith with Marvin Mims not in. Maybe if Marvin was playing today, maybe he calls that timeout. Maybe he does. But we had a holding call on the second half. So coming out in the second half, this is what bothered me. Right? We get a 3-and-out, and the field position blows again. And I'm like, come on. Like, I thought the second half was going to be like, all right, what the hell was that? we got that out of our system. Let's just get back to playing Broncos football. And then once the field position was like the 6-yard line to start the second half, I was like, okay, we're just going to keep doing this. I don't understand. I think RJ Harvey muffed the kick return. And then they start there and they get a 3-and-out, of course. And then Denver punts it to the Raiders and they get 5 yards with Genti on first down. And then on second down, they pick up 4 yards. And then it's 3rd and 2, and Tyler Lockett has a drop. And it's like, whew. It's funny. Sean says there's a fine line between a rut and a groove. And it's so true. It's like the Raiders come out and run it for 5 yards on first down. It's amazing, right? Then they run it again, pick up 3 more yards. And now it's like a really manageable 3rd and 2. And you throw to an open guy and he drops the ball. And now you're punting and it's a 3-and-out. It's like, I mean, that is like perfect execution besides that little drop. And it goes from a perfect execution to a 3-and-out, which is the most frustrating thing that can happen. And I try to keep that in mind too, keeping context, like, okay, yes, we had a 3-and-out. Why did we have a 3-and-out? And how many times did it feel like we were punting it on 4th and 1 just because the field position where they would have gone for it had they have been in a further down the field. NFC West Media in the chat. What's going on? Welcome. Happy to have you in here. Everybody give a round of applause for NFC West Media. He said, could you stream Hawks versus Rams game in 2 weeks? I will absolutely. Yep, I will be streaming that game. And I'll be streaming this week's as well with the 49ers and the Rams. And the Seahawks, I believe they played the Cardinals. Yeah, because I broke it all down. And I was like, I know it sounds weird, but Arizona can actually, in just 3 weeks, be back in the NFC West race because they play so many AFC West opponents. And I broke it all down. I went schedule. I went like game by game. Let's see. I think I still have it written down. It's probably in here. Let me see. Nope, we're getting warmer. Yep. Wild card. Yeah, here it is. So Arizona plays Seattle, the 49ers, Jags, Tampa Bay, and Carolina. Okay. And then the 49ers play the Rams, Cardinals, then Cleveland, Tennessee, and Indy. The Rams play the 49ers, Seahawks, Tampa Bay, Carolina, and Seattle plays Arizona, Rams, Tennessee, Minnesota. So I did all the math, and basically, if Arizona wins, their next 4 games, and the 49ers beat Carolina, and the Rams beat Carolina as well. So basically, I have all the teams in the division beating up on Carolina, but I have Arizona beating everybody in the division in just 4 weeks. So by December, the Arizona Cardinals would be 7-5. The 49ers would be 8-5. The Rams would be 8-4, and the Seahawks would be 8-4. And I just broke it down to say, like, I know everything seems so certain at this point of the year, but you're only one bad month away or one great month away from changing the entire narrative. And the reason I brought that up was because Arizona had been very close for multiple weeks. So close that if they scored just 5 points in their last 5 games, if they just scored 5 more points, they would be an undefeated team right now, which is crazy. They've lost their last 5 games before Sunday, of course, or Monday. They had lost their last 5 games by 4 points or fewer. And getting that win over the Cowboys felt like one of those games that could really get something started. And lucky for them, they get to play Seattle this week. And that would be, I think, the final nail in the coffin if they lose to the Seahawks. But, as much as you don't want to play that game because you're like, I'm trying to get something going, what's the point? You know what I mean? If you can't even beat this, if you can't beat the best, then, why even fool your fans? So we'll see what they can do. But I actually think the Cardinals-Seahawks game is going to be a good one. I'll be streaming that one too. Hawks D will be all over Brissett. Yeah, I think the Seahawks might be the best team in the NFL right now. I think they are. Yeah, I feel pretty good about that. The only thing is Sam Darnold, he makes a couple bad throws every game that I'm like, what are you doing? But he's aggressive, right? He's an aggressive guy. All the gunslingers do that. Josh Allen, he did that. He just stopped doing that like a year and a half ago. So in Carolina, they were my division winner prediction, and they're not looking like an easy team anymore. And their defensive coordinator, I think, is like the 3rd best in the league, Evero. And they're starting to click, and they're starting to believe in each other. And Rico Dowdle is looking like the best running back I've ever seen. I put a graphic earlier today. This guy didn't even start every single game this year, and he's on the list of top 5 running backs in the NFL. I think he's 3rd. Insane what he's doing. So look, you're playing good defense with that running back, the way he's playing right now, and then you add in the weapons that they have, and all Bryce Young has to do is really manage the game, make a couple good throws, and I feel like the Carolina Panthers can beat anyone, and that's why they just went into Lambeau and beat the Packers. I know what this Panthers team can do. I think the Panthers and the Cardinals are in a very similar situation where it's like, it's not a finished product, but it's like, if I had to put them in a tier, it would be, they could be good. They could be bad too. We've seen that. And we'll just have to wait and see. But anyway, getting to the end here with this recap. So, only a couple more things I wrote down that I wanted to discuss. Of course, Luke Wattenberger with the snap infraction. Can't have that. We had the backwards pass to Cortland Sutton, ran a trick play. We did it on 3rd down, I believe, and had to pump it. My only thing with that is Sutton's a big guy. He's a big guy. You know what I mean? Why not run that with RJ Harvey? I mean, is like RJ Harvey used to play quarterback. This guy used to actually be a quarterback. He's also more shifty. So if he gets caught in the exact spot that Sutton was caught in, which is, I got to go, they didn't fall for it. He has this speed to, at least bring it back to the line of scrimmage. And then if he does decide to throw a jump ball, Sutton's your jump ball guy. So I don't have a problem with the play. I have a problem with the player they chose to run that play with. RJ Harvey absolutely should have been the guy to catch that ball. And for whatever reason, they decided that they were going to have Cortland Sutton be that guy. And that bothers me. And it did bother me. We had Will Lutz miss a field goal, 59-yarder. It's in altitude. The announcer said that he had been kicking that field goal all of pregame. So I don't know. I'm getting tired of him missing 59. I feel like every time he lines up for, I mean, if it was 55, it would go through. But it's like, why do I keep hearing stories of him hitting from 63? I hear it every week. Here's a video of him hitting from 63 in pregame. Yet, when he goes out there, he never makes those kicks. And Sean never sends him out there. And then he goes out there for a 59-yarder. I thought it was good until the very end. And I'm like, oh, crap, that was short. But not by much. And then Denver later is at a 58-yard field goal and they punt it. And I'm like, okay, trying to pin him deep. But why? We have established that our punter's having a day. He's having a day, and it's not a good day. It's a bad day. So why are we saying, okay, let's, in a game where every point matters, my kicker just showed you he's about a yard short, the 3 feet. You put 3 extra feet on that 59-yarder. And by the way, he's made it in the pregame, so he can kick it. So now he knows, like, okay, I was focused on accuracy. I need to get a little lean into it a little bit more, but not much more because it's 58 and not 59. Get the 3 points. You're just like, no, I'm going to pin him back. It's like your punter can't punt for the life of him. You were in your own end zone and he couldn't punt it. 35 net yards? Then all of a sudden, the punter is at midfield and he punts a touchback. I'm like, God, this guy should have pretended that he needed to punt it across the field. It would have only went 30 yards. But, when he needs to kick it short, he kicks it in the end zone. It was just not his day. But that's on Sean for not realizing it. We all realized it. And I know 74,000 Bronco fans realized it because when he actually got a clean punt off, the whole place started clapping and cheering. Like, how do you not realize that maybe you should just take the 3 points and not, we're going to pitch deep and play field position? Why don't you let your kicker not have a missed field goal be the only thing that he comes from this game with? Well, he did make one later in the day, but I mean a long field goal. Like, he needs to get a 58-yard field goal in his backpack. He needs to know, like, I've done that this year. I don't want the game to be on the line and all we can muster is 58-yard field goal, and Will Lutz hasn't actually made one of those this year. I want him to at least have a day he can go back to in his head, like, oh yeah, I've made this already this year. So all in all, I want to see Will Lutz make those kicks. I want to see Sean let Will Lutz attempt those kicks unless our punter's having himself a good day, which we have seen. In that case, go ahead and pin it back. I love our defense. I'm all about the idea, but I just knew before the punter even kicked that it was either going to be a touchback or it was going to be like 17-yard line. Our punter just, it's a work in progress, I guess. The line of scrimmage. Why did Amazon decide that they were going to turn the line of scrimmage yellow? You guys, this is something that bothers me a lot. I'm watching a game. This yellow line, my entire life, meant first down. All of a sudden, we're supposed to just be okay with the fact that that's no longer a first down. That is now the line of scrimmage. That's so dumb. Why would they do that? I don't know if I'm the only one that noticed this, but yeah, I hate that crap. Absolutely hate it. Pass interference on Troy Franklin was bullshit. In the second half, the Broncos completed, I think, it was Troy Franklin. He completed like a 25-yard pass, and the ref threw a flag for a push-off. But then they showed the replay. They didn't show a push-off, and it took away the play, of course. And the announcers, I'm mad at them, man. At least Tony Romo, for all of his flaws, whenever a penalty's called and they go to the replay, he'll say, I don't know about that one, Jim. At least he, is like, I don't know about that, Jim. Like, these guys just play the replay. It's absolutely silent. And then when the play's over, they go, all right, so it's going to be 3rd and 20. It's like, wait, you're just not going to say that other part that you don't see it? That was a 40-yard swing. That goes from us being, at midfield to being in a 2nd and 20. Another just, and some of the penalties were, most of the penalties were on us. This one, I just didn't see it. I saw the replay. I didn't see a pass interference on Troy Franklin. No more screens until further notice. Maybe do 4 a game. See how those go. And until they do those 4 screens, I want to say until 65% of the sample size is working, cut that shit out. Nobody wants to see that. It doesn't work. It's not the play caller. It's a great play call, but it's on you for not realizing that your team is not executing. Yes, you got 3 Broncos lined up in front of 2 defenders, and you got RJ Harvey with the ball. And if you just pause the screen right there, you would say, great play call. This is probably a touchdown. And then you would hit play, and RJ Harvey would lose 2 yards. And you would say, how did that happen? Well, I can tell you how it happened. Yes, perfect design. Yes, perfect timing. All of that. But your receivers don't block. They're not physical. They're not great at running the screen. So, like, that's on you as a play caller to be like, okay, so I'm doing everything right, but my players aren't good at this. Wasn't it Sean himself that said he was going to fix Russell Wilson? I'm going to play the music, the karaoke music. I'm going to play his favorite song. I'm going to play his favorite song that he could dance to, something like that. Basically, like, I'm going to do what he's good at. That's how I'm going to fix him. Okay, why don't we take that advice for this whole offense? And I'm trying not to raise my voice, but how about we just run the plays that we're good at? Let's just go for that. I don't know. Let's just try it out. See what it looks like. Because it seems like in the 4th quarter, we're doing that. It seems like we're running Bo out of the pocket. It seems like Bo is starting to run. And there's something about the desperation of the moment that makes Bo make different decisions that I want him to be that desperate in the 1st quarter. Not in a bad way where he throws a 50-50 ball down the field. That's not even a 50-50 ball. It's like a 20-80 ball. The defender with the advantage. But I'm talking about, like, having 7 yards of open grass in front of you and throwing a tight ball in tight coverage instead of just picking it up with your legs and getting a fresh set of downs. Like, if it was the 4th quarter and there was a minute left in the game, you wouldn't throw that ball. Hell no. You would pick up the first down because the game's on the line if you don't pick that up. So, like, I want to see him not be so okay with these drives going 3 and out. And I'm not saying I want him to have a panic attack and throw his hands in the air and slam his helmet down. I really don't. I don't think that's a good quality. When I see Caleb Williams and other quarterbacks act like that, I'm like, oh, okay, he hasn't learned how to control his emotions yet. Okay, what are we, 22, 23? I want my quarterback to be a full-on man, but I also want him to hate 3 and out so much that he goes to dramatic measures to make sure it doesn't happen. And somewhere there's a dance that falls in the middle of those two that I would like to see from Bo Nix. 3 and outs. I mean, what can I say about the 3 and outs? They were 5 for 15 on 3rd down today. I mean, 33%, 5 for 15. That's not good. Not good. 220 total yards. only 84 rushing yards. This is a team that was supposed to be able to run all over. And it felt like every time Bo Nix went to pass, as soon as he faked the handoff, there were 3 or 4 Raiders in his face. Like, look, I want to get on to Bo just as much as every other Broncos fan, but when my dude hands the football off and Max Crosby and the other guy that they drafted, I'm blanking on his name. I think he went to Clemson. When these guys are in his face right when he comes out, like, this offensive line had a bad day, like a very bad day. This did not look good at all. I'm not even talking about their job out there. I'm talking about their penalties. It was just, all in all, just terrible work. I mean, Garrett Bowles was good. I don't even remember seeing him today. That's a good thing, right? But Mike McGlinchey, Luke Wattenberg, and I forget the other guy they brought out. Man, we need Garrett Bowles and Quinn Arnaz. Like, this is an entirely different. And look, people are like, I didn't know how important yeah, you did, because look at the Chargers without their Joe Alt. They're an entirely different team. It's that big of a deal, you guys. Like, Denver went out there today without their best blocker in the running game and Ben Powers, their other guard. They went out there and didn't have either of them. And honestly, like, some of the stuff that the extra 2 seconds that Bo Nix has as a passer, that's the difference between a completion and throwing the ball away and getting booed off the field. It's not Bo. It's like, no, you're mad. I get the frustration, but it's like, our offensive line just didn't do sufficient. Like, they did not meet the standard. It makes it very difficult for a quarterback to be able to see the field, make a read, and not throw the ball in harm's way when he has only half a second to decide what to do, and he has to run while thinking. Like, it's just terrible. Terrible, terrible. Worst day I've seen in years, probably. Genty, back-to-back runs, 3rd and 6. That was towards the end, and then they ended up having to throw it away. Geno keeps, keeps Raiders in field goal range. Yeah, it was a good throwaway by Geno. I don't know if you guys saw that at the end, but there was a play where, and he was already hurt, but Denver full-on blitzed the entire team, and Geno ran fast enough to get out of the pocket just to throw it away. But that was huge, because if he would have taken a sack, they would have been out of field goal range. But the 48-yard field goal was no good anyway. So they actually get no points from the interception, which the interception that put him there was Troy Franklin dropping the ball. Ball went up, hit him in the hands. And then another Bronco, I think it was Sutton, had a chance at it. And, he didn't get it either. And it's just like, God, talk about not your day, right? I mean, bad day at the office. But let's get to the post-game press conferences. We'll talk about these. I'm not going to pause it too much. I hate when people do that. But we'll stop where necessary. But first, let's end all that criticism on a positive note, okay? All right, here's what the Broncos said after the game.
Broncos country, that's the 8th win. We're going to keep rolling. It's a big week coming up. We're going to move on to the next one after this one. Go Broncos.
That's 8. Let's keep rolling.
What's that? 8-2? Ooh, we. Like I said before, ooh, we. Broncos country, that's the 8th win. We're going to keep rolling. It's a big week coming up. We're going to move on to the next one after this one. Go Broncos.
That's 8. Let's keep rolling.
We're going to move on to the next one.
I love that the players are saying, we got a big one coming up. I love that this game just ended and they're already thinking about the Chiefs game. That's good. that means it's a bulletin board game, and this team knows that, they obviously they know they have to show up better. They have to show up better now. And like, it sounds so stupid that I'm even saying that. Like, they know they need to rest. They need to rest. And I know what Sean's going to say, take Thursday, take Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'll see you Monday. And Monday, it's Chiefs week. If anything, I'm happy that this team was able to win a game and they didn't have to score 40 points. That's exhausting. It's nice that Bo just was able to hand the ball off, 7 times in a row and just end the game like that and not do anything, like not get all beat up or scratched up. Like, it might not seem like much now, but I really believe that was part of Sean's game plan, was beating the Raiders by the easiest path of resistance. I don't think he used his special plays. He doesn't want them on film. I don't think he wanted to put it on by any means. I think he was very comfortable with the type of game this was, and he leaned into it and only called, the most boring plays that he has, and kept his players, out of harm's way. Didn't try to pad the stats there at the end. And I got to say, like, it's kind of smart, considering this is a team that hasn't had a bye week yet. And you got a really big opponent, and this is the film they have. All right, let's watch film on the Broncos. Let's put the Raiders game up. Like, there's nothing about this game that even remotely looked like the Broncos. So they'll go to some other games, and at least you got them shuffling through trying to guess which Broncos are coming. So let me show you Bo Nix after the game. This was Bo Nix after the loss. Or, I'm sorry, the win. It feels like a loss. It was a win. I swear, I'm happy it was a win.
Yeah. Hey, Bo. Mike McGlinchey was just saying in the locker room that obviously, the win is good, but the offense needs to do better. Maybe you could expand on that.
Yeah, we got to do better. At some point, 10 points ain't going to be enough. We got to score more.
Bo, the ability to earn these wins kind of in different ways. I think I asked you this last week, but just what does it tell you about when you are able to start clicking a little more on offense, about what the potential can be here?
Well, we just have a tough and resilient football team. We find ways to win. Usually right now it's the defense leading the charge. They just continue to get us the ball back. A bunch of sacks tonight, a few that were in field goal range that knocked them out. And you'll win a lot of games with the defense playing like that. And then tonight we had a little spark with some special teams plays, and then, we just, at some point, we got to start moving the football and scoring points.
Yeah, Bo, Sean said that the Raiders did some things that you hadn't seen before. He gave a lot of credit to them for your offensive struggles. Anything in particular that they were doing?
Well, I thought they were a good defense. I thought their schedule is definitely not a good representation of probably how good they are. I think they've probably had some unlucky breaks, but they were solid on defense. They have a good front. They're able to get pressure. They did some different looks tonight as far as getting pressure on us, but it's just tough. At the beginning they were keeping us off balance, and then they're in the second half. Felt like we were moving the ball a little bit, but just never could break through. But it's tough against a good defense like that.
Bo, what's the balance of the frustration of not being as productive as you want versus knowing that it's, I guess, correctable or achievable and still out there with obviously a lot of football still left?
I think you guys stay level-headed. You got to understand that it is the NFL, and 7 wins in a row is hard to come by. So you're doing something right, but at the same time, you're also doing something wrong because there's plenty left on the table, I think. And between penalties and just some sluggish football, we're just not playing very good. And starts with me. I got to be better, and then the rest of the guys will follow along. But we got to find some juice somewhere. We got to find something, and especially against a good defense like that, there's plays to be had. We just got to find them.
Bo, on your right, on your defense had a lot of sacks. Say 45 sacks is the most since 1990 through 10 games. What that pass rush specifically, getting after the quarterback, and then specifically with that Hufanga sack, it looked like that really kind of flipped the momentum.
Yeah, those guys get after the passer. Those guys do a good job of rushing. They stay in their lanes. It's kind of rushing by committee. You never know who's going to get a sack. There's plenty of guys up there that have good moves, have good pass rush, and can get to the quarterback. And I think they just do a good job of getting to 3rd and long. And when you know a defense is about to pass it, and they're able to tee off a little bit. But they just do a good job. They get after it. They all of them, whether it's 4 or 5 guys up front rushing or whether it's somebody from the back end that rushes, they do a good job getting the quarterback. They find the ball, and they're playing it really well. And, they provide us with a lot of energy, and, the sideline's always upbeat, and, we just got to literally move on.
Yeah, Bo, you've getting the full gamut of Broncos country. The fans here are great often, but you also found out tonight it can be a tough crowd too. What'd you think about some of their reaction, the boos and that kind of thing?
Well, I've been booed before, and I'll be booed again, so not going to be the last time. It's obviously unfortunate. You don't want your own fans booing you, but, it's part of it.
Yeah, I don't like that either. I don't like the booing of our own quarterback. I get it. Things aren't going well out there, and it's easy to just get mad, and it's like, I'm not booing him. I'm booing just what I'm seeing. It's like, it's not personal, but it's like, yeah, but that they're going to take it that way. Like, it's not like the player doesn't know he's getting booed. And I don't know. I was feeling that way too, but if I were at the game, would I be booing? I don't know. I don't know. I try not to. I really do. Here's something that we don't have to boo. That was supposed to be a lot cooler. Let me try that one more time. And while I do, the person that I really want to hear from, after what we just saw, of course, is the head coach, because that's really where the accountability starts. And I'll tell you something, Sean Payton is pissed off. He was pissed off with a reporter because a reporter made a comment about, I get it that you're 7-2, but and Sean's like, no but. There's no but. We're not 7-2, but right, we're 7-2. That's what our record says. And let me just show you for yourself.
Excuse me, my voice is a little hoarse. Obviously, a hard-fought win. A lot of stuff for us to cover, and yet I'm real proud of the fight. Give Vegas credit. They came in here, they had a real good plan, did some things that were challenging. We got a punt, blocked a punt on the kicking game. Our defense was fantastic. Too many penalties on offense that put us in a hole, and that I got to be better also. But good win. Questions now.
Coach, to your left, the defense, I think 7 consecutive drives at one point without allowing a first down. Just how impressive do they continue to be to you?
Man, we knew. Look, when you play a divisional opponent, those type of games can go a lot of different directions. This one certainly, unfolded differently maybe than we would have thought, but that was significant.
Sean, just first blush offensively, what kept you from?
Yeah, we had, I would say, I think we had 8 penalties. Let's start there, and then when you take those penalties and you say, all right, I felt like it was a night where when it was 3rd down, I was looking on the wrong section of the 3rd down sheet, and when you get over there too much, it becomes difficult. they did some things in their defensive scheme base, versus some of our sub that maybe created some minus runs, but I was pleased that we closed it out. They knew we were going to run, we were going to run, and we were able to finish the game. So we'll look at that tape. We'll enjoy the win, and then be back at it Monday.
Coach, to your left, the block punt that you talked about, how important was that to get that right there?
I think, man, the just in such a low-scoring game, I felt like the first half, and I mentioned this at the end of half with the interview, the whole first half was spent, on our end of the field, starting with twice we were at the 1. And so I felt like the second half, and I said this to him at halftime, I said it's important we play this second half on their end of the field, and I think for the most part we did. It was a little windier than maybe expected, but yeah, I think the field position was something we felt would be real important. And so when you block a punt, I mean, it's significant.
Sean, again, as you've said, your record says who you are.
Exactly right.
But,
no, are you going to say but? No. What's your question?
Are you comfortable with the script of just kind of how these games continue to be won?
We're never comfortable as coaches, but there's no buts. So you're asking, am I comfortable as a coach? We're never satisfied. If my answer were to you, I'm comfortable, that'd be silly, right? So obviously we gotta clean up the penalties. We gotta clean up some of the execution, and that is an ongoing thing that probably never ends.
Like I said, I don't like cutting people off, but I just got to say, I love this answer. This is an amazing answer. Once in a while, I love, because like there's something about me where I'm a little bit on the spectrum, and the thing about that is I will tell the truth, and there's these rules in society, these social constructs that we don't tell 100% truth, because humans are emotional beings. And then there's a percentage that just doesn't tell the truth all the time. And I notice I have interactions like this all the time where, I choose to just tell the truth, and it's like, and then I'm like, no, I'm not trying to be mean. Sometimes the truth sounds mean, but I'm not mad or anything like that. I'm just telling the truth. You ask me, are we comfortable with this script? Because you want to get a soundbite of Sean going, absolutely not. I'm not comfortable. Like, we suck today. But like, anybody that watched this game, anybody would have felt that this was a bad performance offensively. So as a reporter, like, you're asking an offensive play caller if he's comfortable with 5 of 15 on third down, 86 rushing yards for the entire game, 186 passing yards, 220 total yards. You're asking Sean Payton if he's comfortable with that. Of course he's not comfortable with that. But he makes a great point. If Denver would have won, there's not one game this year that I've been like, I feel really comfortable with where this team's at. I've been happy, but there's a difference between happy and comfortable. I mean, I could go back to even the Cowboys game. I was so pissed in the Cowboys game because we had penalties that took away touchdowns. We had drops. I mean, even the what was it? I think it was the Cowboys game. Sutton dropped one right in the end zone. Then we got a penalty and ended up having to punt it. It's like, we've had so many mistakes. Like, you can't come in 30th out of 32 teams in penalties, averaging 8.2 penalties per game. You can't do that and be comfortable, right? The drops, it's a constant theme, right? So every single game we've come away going, hey, we got the win, but there's a lot of room to improve. It felt like the fourth quarter of the Giants game was like, we now we know, like, okay, if we can, I'm not saying we have to score 33 every quarter, but if we can put something that looks like 75% of the Giants game, fourth quarter, if we can put 4 quarters together that look like that, all right. That's something that we can now talk about, but still, you're not comfortable because that's actually the scariest place to be as a coach, because it's like, what do I do now to make sure that complacency doesn't set in? Because now this team has actually fixed the mistakes. They're playing really good. We want them to know that, but at the same time, they're grown men. They know that, but we don't want it to like become monotonous, going through the motions, get complacent. All of a sudden you get beat, by Carolina and Green Bay, or, I think Carolina is good, but I'm just saying, like, this is the NFL. There's no such thing as like, how did you get beat by that team? And this is probably the thing that bothers me the most with fans, just regular NFL fans. They don't understand the difference between college and the NFL. Not that's a generalization. A large amount of fans don't understand that it is not an upset. I mean, sure, on paper it's an upset when, the Jets beat, the Packers or whatever. But these are NFL athletes. Like, they can put together a really good game plan. And like, oh, Brees Hall had a really good game. Like, these are amazing athletes. Garrett Wilson, had 2 catches, 2 touchdowns and 140 yards. And, Justin Fields, these are former first overall picks, the best athletes at their position in the entire nation just a couple years ago. Like, there's no, like, even the bad teams, it's like, yeah, we should beat those teams. But I hate when people act like, oh, if you, because here's what they do. If you beat those teams, they say, oh, it's just that team. It's just that team. But if you lose to those teams, it's how could you lose to that team? Right? It's like in the preseason, right? Bo Nix was a rookie. He went out in the preseason, lit it up, and everyone said it's just preseason. But I'm like, but if he was Patrick Mahomes doing it, you would say, of course, Mahomes looks great against those guys. He's Mahomes. Those are backups. So at the same time, it's like you are saying that there should be a talent difference between a really good quarterback and third, fourth string defenders guarding against a really good quarterback. And that's what Bo looked like. That was the contrast. It was like, yeah, but Bo looked really good against those third, fourth string quarterbacks. And instead of focusing on that, they go, yeah, but it's preseason. And it's like, okay, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? At some point, you have to give credit to both sides. But all that to say, there's only a couple of teams that are truly like, there's just a lot of dysfunction. There's bad coaching. There's bad culture. But it's like, even those teams, for whatever reason, any given Sunday, that's a real thing. But I would say, yeah, there's maybe 3 teams in that boat. But there's 27 other teams that can beat you any Sunday, and it's not that shocking. I mean, just look at the NFC West. The entire division, I think, is respectable. Like I said, the Cardinals are 5 more points per game away from being 9-0. I mean, that's crazy. That's the worst team in that division. Look at the NFC North. Like, the Bears are trying to go to the playoffs, and the freaking Lions and Packers are super legit, and the Vikings just beat the Lions in Detroit. And everyone's like, how did that happen? What do you mean, how did that happen? This is the NFL. Like, get with it. Why do you think it's so hard to gamble on NFL? Because the results are so unpredictable. The only way to give yourself an actual shot at a 14-leg parlay is to select 3 things that you really don't think are going to happen and just go and select them anyway, because that's the NFL. That's the nature of the beast. And this question about being satisfied after, Sean Payton put 7 points on offense, 10 points total, it's a ridiculous question. I don't know if he was trying to get, a rise out of him, but it's like, no, I'm not satisfied. But, even if we would have scored 31 points today, I wouldn't be satisfied because we had 11 penalties, because we had 4 drops. Bo Nix threw 2 interceptions. Like, our defense gave up way too many 5-yard runs on first down. We weren't even remotely close to being comfortable. So I just don't like the question, and I love the answer.
You search for that Shangri-La. Right now, we're a team sitting at 8 wins. I think we're the only team sitting there. So, and yet we're constantly looking internally, starting. But it was a tough night offensively, obviously, and I give them credit. They did some things differently that we hadn't seen, and you start looking at your call sheet with your sub plan, and so we'll look at that tape and we'll learn from it. We always.
I want to just be on record, and again, the Raiders played very, very, very good defensively. I don't care that they hadn't done that all year. And this is what people do. They'd say, no. Your offense was so bad that you made the Raiders defense look good. No. Wrong. Just all wrong, right? When the coverage is so good that the throws are so tight, that's good defense. When the penetration is so great that Bo Nix has 1.7 seconds to throw, that's good defense. That's winning at the point of attack. That's winning in the trenches. When you can't run the football on 3rd and 1 and pick up a yard, that's good defense. Because we've played those other teams and had no problems. And trust me, those are bad defenses. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Dallas Cowboys. I know I said every given Sunday. That's because those teams have good offenses sometimes. But on defense, like, they are objectively terrible defense, both of them. And yeah, I mean, if Denver scored 10 points against one of those defenses, that would be concerning. That would be concerning. And, there's games like that. I think Green Bay only scored like maybe 23 points against Cleveland or Cincinnati, but maybe even less. But that's not the point. Is I don't want people to move the goalpost about how well the Raiders played defensively. The Raiders played out of their mind on the defensive side of the ball. And yeah, we still got the win, so there should be no problem in admitting that. And it's not an excuse to be ass on offense either. Like, we have to find a way to be able to make in-game adjustments. And that's what Sean was just talking about. Like, he had me looking at my sub plan. Like, okay, my actual plan wasn't working. I have to pivot. I have to do something different because the Raiders, they were ready for exactly what I wanted to do. That's coaching. That's execution. I mean, Pete Carroll's a great head coach, man. He's a great head coach. He had these boys ready. Pete Carroll's an exceptional coach on Thursday Night Football as well. I'm gonna look that up really quick. Best head coach records on Thursday Night Football all time. And Thursday Night Football is a newish thing, so that should be Thursday Night Football. Here we go. It says, okay. Let's see. That's John Harbaugh. It's actually a really hard question to get an answer, at least in AI mode. Let me try somewhere else. Do you know Andy Reid is 21-4 following a bye week, best in NFL history? List of Thursday Night Football results. Mike Tomlin, Kansas City. Here we go. Sean McVay's stellar record, Rams Wire. Maybe they include other head coaches in this article. Sean McVay In their 7 Thursday night games with short rest, the Rams have outscored their opponents 205 to 158, the 5th best scoring margin of any team since 2017 in such games. Their 6 wins were tied for 3rd most in non-week 1 Thursday night games, and their average of 6.8 yards per play is the best in football. No, they're just pumping the Rams' tires there. Why is that so hard? Best records on Thursday Night Football. That's teams. Okay, that's teams. Okay. The Colts are 16-5-1, so they're the best NFL team on Thursday Night Football. Wow. Let's see. Seahawks. Well, it's changed a lot since Pete's been gone, probably. But he is a winning record. He is, let's see, 1 Colts, Eagles, Ravens, Cowboys, Patriots, Niners, Bills, Chiefs, Seahawks. So 9th best in the NFL on Thursday Night Football. I guess that's not as great as I thought. But that's the Seahawks as a team. You know, they've lost, I think, 2 or 3 Thursday night games since Pete Carroll's left. So, anyway, let's continue.
Coach, you mentioned it was
just to put a bow on that. The Raiders played great defensively. That's all I was trying to say. You got to give them credit. I think, looking back on the season, that was the best defensive performance next to Houston last week. And I'm sure they looked at that film, saw what did Houston do that worked so well. And now we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do about that.
a little windy. How did that impact your play call and your offense and even cross shot and punting?
I felt like, honestly, I felt like usually here, the forecast, the wind dies down as it gets later. So I wouldn't have considered the first half windy. I would have just said in the second half it started picking up. Look, they had a chance at a field goal to tie. You know, hindsight, me attempting that field goal, you know, I wouldn't have done it. Yeah, but I don't think the win was the reason that game was a low-scoring game. I think both defenses played well.
You think cross shot was impacted by it?
I think it was more the drop. You know, it's not the kick off the foot. You know, when generally speaking, when you have some mishits like that, it's how it comes off your hands.
Sean, you always have a good plan for off time and this and that, knowing the Chiefs take the week off because you've talked about how Andy gave you that advice. But what does the next few days look like for you and your staff and then the players?
I think they're away. I mean, man, it was a short week. These guys will be back Monday. And we know we got a big game coming up against Kansas City. So yeah, the staff and the players will have this time away, and then, you know, one of the tough things about Thursday night football is the short week and in the preparation. The positive is then after the game, if you know, obviously if you win, you know, you have that mini bye, but the turnaround's tough, and you know, guys handled it well.
Hi, Sean. Hoping you can talk about the 3rd-and-1 play in which Sutton looked like he was going to pass. What was kind of the thinking?
Yeah, listen, it's a play we've had up, and it's short yardage, so you know, it's a misdirect. We've called this before. They did a good job peeling on the running back, and so, you know, when it works, it looks great. Cortland was smart not throwing it. That's exactly what happened.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Cortland was smart not to throw it. Yep. And I guess the reason why it wasn't RJ Harvey was because the intended receiver was supposed to be a running back. So I guess that answers that. But I would like to see RJ Harvey throw the football, especially as he becomes a more dynamic focal point in this offense. And it will definitely open up some opportunities where he gets the ball and the defense crashes down. And he used to be a quarterback, so all of a sudden he uses that arm, throws the ball deep, get a big play. But Sutton, nothing open. They brought the running back out, swung him around, and defense picked him up and ran with him, and that wasn't supposed to happen. And Sutton smartly sees, okay, they didn't fall for it. Let me not throw an interception, just, kind of take the loss and move on. And that's kind of what this whole day felt like, was Denver taking, the loss and taking the L, play after play. But you saw Bo Nix not satisfied. But at the end of the day, it feels good to go home for these guys on Thursday and be able to rest their bodies and chill, relax, have a good time. Enjoy being 8-2 for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of it, this league. I just got done saying there's no such thing as like, how did you get beat by? There's only 32 teams. These are the best athletes in the entire world, and the worst teams in the NFL add the best players in the world to their team every single April. Like, there's only, like I said, one or two teams that's like, yeah, they're not where they should be. But like, if I went to the power rankings right now, right, and I will, I'm going to show you that even here's the updated power rankings. This is from ESPN, all right, which I don't agree with any of these ever, but Buffalo Bills number 1. Number 2, let me see if I can move this here. Yeah. Number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles. That's weird. We beat them. So like, okay, like, how does that happen? How do, we don't do it, win for win. I get that. It's a week to week league, but we have 2 more wins than them. And when this was written, we had 1 more than them. But more importantly, we're on a 6-game winning streak at the time this is written. But yeah, people have their favorites. Eagles, Colts. We would have. What's crazy is that penalty for leverage doesn't get called, and Denver's 9-1, and they would have wins against the Eagles and the Colts under their belt. And then nobody could say that Denver doesn't have a legitimate win, which is just so stupid, because these teams are good football teams. You saw what the Raiders looked like tonight defensively. The Tampa Bay Bucks 6-2, which is funny because somehow Nick Wright specifically, he talks about Tampa Bay like they are criminally underrated. Like, I don't know why Tampa doesn't get, more love. Look at Tampa Bay, their schedule. Okay. They had comeback wins. They lost to the Eagles. We beat the Eagles. They had a strong win over Seattle. I don't think Seattle peaked at this point. Good win over San Francisco. Lost to Detroit. That was bad. Beat New Orleans, as they should. But leading up to this Philly game, all of these games were a last drive comeback. Atlanta, last second comeback. Houston, last second comeback. The Jets, last second comeback. So like, they can have a last second comeback to the Jets. And it's Nick Wright still goes, the Texans are criminally underrated. They're a Super Bowl contender. We do it. And by the way, we do it without giving up 27 points to the Jets. And instead, it's the Broncos are fraudulent. They only beat the Jets by 2. So it's not created equal. And I don't know why. But I saw these 3 games and I'm like, Tampa Bay is going to number 1 on the power rankings. And they're going there only because they have a better record than the rest of the teams in the NFL. I don't remember what week it was. I think it was maybe this week right here, week 7, and they were 6-1, and they were number 1 in power rankings. And I'm like, that's stupid, because they say it's not based off your schedule, yet everybody knows the Lions are going to beat the Tampa Bay Bucks, and Detroit was just coming off a loss, right? I forgot who it was against, but I knew they weren't going to lose again. And let's see who was that loss that they were coming off. Detroit Lions just got done losing to Kansas City. Okay. And I'm like, yeah, they're not losing twice in a row. It's not happening. But everybody agreed. And I'm like, so we all collectively agreed that Detroit is better than Tampa Bay, but because of their record, we can't put them above. So it's dumb. It's dumb because the rules change for every team. Losing by 2 is okay for Tampa. Putting Tampa number 1 for the record's okay for one team, but for the Patriots, it's not okay because they haven't played a real team yet. It's just, that's why the power rankings are impossible. I try to keep mine like, okay, what is really like the most consistent thing in the NFL? And I think that would be Detroit. I know they're coming off a bad loss. Who was it that they lost to recently? It was the Vikings, right, the Vikings. But like, that's just the NFL, man. Like, we all know there's a ton of parity. We're hearing that word. I swear, I heard that word like one time my entire life, and now everyone says it. It feels like the whole world discovered a new word, including myself. So, a lot of parity. Look, here's the game against New England. This is a fun one because here's a team that's lost a couple games to, the Eagles and Detroit, but they've beaten up on, the Niners had everybody hurt when they played the Niners. And then, Detroit, Houston, Atlanta, the Jets, whatever. But nobody says anything. But you look at New England's schedule, they have an even more, nobody maybe in the history of the NFL has had an easier schedule than New England. I would put it up against any year in the history of the league. Do yourself a favor and look at their schedule. And I just wrote about this. We got all the way to week 8, and 6 of their 8 opponents averaged 3 wins per team, which would have all 3-5. I mean, it is truly incredible. The Raiders, they lost. Miami, they won. Pittsburgh lost. And then they've won all these. Carolina, Buffalo's a good win, right? But like I said, it's a divisional game. And even in a year where the Patriots were 4-12, they could beat Buffalo because that's just how it works. That's how divisional games work. So we need to take this game and isolate it for a second and put it over here, right? We can't use this to say that all of this is justified because of this, because then we're not leaving any room for a divisional opponent to just be challenging. No, you got the best of us that day. It's a divisional opponent. You know us well. So we have to be careful with how we justify an entire 10 games because of one game. Because look, New Orleans, Tennessee, Cleveland, Atlanta, Miami, the Raiders. They lost to the Raiders, but the Raiders can be good. We saw that today. Look, the Jets, the Bengals, the Giants. Then they got Buffalo again. Okay, and then Baltimore's going to be tough. The Jets, Miami, Washington, Minnesota, the Giants. Wait, that's the preseason. Miami, the Jets, the Giants, Cincinnati, the Jets, Cleveland, Tennessee, New Orleans, Carolina, Miami, the Raiders. Like, this is insane. This is an insane schedule. So I say all of that to say, like, I feel like the Patriots and the Bucks are very similar, where it's like Maybe Tampa hasn't played as bad of teams, but the teams are closer to mediocre, and Tampa's barely beat them, which is just as bad as beating a really bad team by 10. That's what's not. I mean, it levels out. So Tampa Bay is one of those teams that there are people that believe this is a Super Bowl caliber team, and there's people that think the Bucs do this every year. Maybe Baker's playing at a little bit of a higher level, but overall, like, there's not like, a piano didn't fall out of the sky. Like, what is his name? The guy that does all the cocaine, Charlie. Whatever. It's late. Yeah, a piano didn't fall out of the room. Like, Tampa Bay's, this is what I expect. But look at this: New England, Buffalo, the Rams. We're gonna learn quite a bit about Tampa Bay, aren't we? Right? Especially this next game, because we're gonna learn about Tampa Bay and New England. We're gonna learn about both of them. Then we're gonna see them play Buffalo again, and I mean, New England could lose both of those games. All right, no, we're talking about the Bucs right now. Then they're going to play Buffalo and the Rams. So there is very good possibility that the Bucs lose all 3 of these, and then they're going to be a 6-5 team. And you're going to think, okay, why did I think they were the best team in the NFL week 6? Oh, because they had the best record. Right. Don't do that. Don't fall for that. Look, the Patriots will probably finish with the best record in the NFL. I don't think that they're a top 5 team. I think they're top 7. But no, like we'll see. Like, there's room for them to climb, but it's going to take games like this against Tampa Bay resulting in wins. And to be totally honest, like, if New England beat Tampa Bay, their base would be like, see, I told you we were legit. We just beat Tampa. I don't think Tampa's like that great. I don't think beating Tampa is like, beating the Eagles in Philly, or beating the Chiefs in Kansas City, or beating Buffalo in Buffalo, or beating Seattle in Seattle, or beating Detroit in Detroit. I don't think it's any of those. I think it's a very possible thing to do. Belichick started his career 0-2 last year. In week 3, we went on the road and played Tampa. Tampa just got done beating Detroit in Detroit. They were 2-0. Everybody thought they were top 5 team in the NFL, and Denver blasted them. I think it was 20-3. And that's who Tampa Bay is. They're the team that will lose to the Saints, and they'll beat Detroit in Detroit. They didn't this time, but they will. They're a very unpredictable team. So, like, I think in order to be top 5, you have to be like, I know it's like a product, right? Like, I know exactly what I'm going to get every time I use it, right? Tylenol. Or there's controversy with that, but like, nobody takes a Tylenol and wonders, like, is it going to work? If acetaminophen works for your headaches, you don't question it. You just take it. And like, if you're a top 5 team, that's the kind of certainty I need out of you. If you're giving me like, oh, you're a little bit of a wild card vibe, you can't be in my top 5. And that's why I have Denver in my top 5, is because as much as people want to complain about their offense, I know what I'm going to get from them defensively every single week. I know what I'm going to get. I would have Houston in my top 5 as well because of their defense, if their offense helped them out at all. We have top 3 offensive line in the NFL. Houston has one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, and that's why their offense blows. Think about it. Houston leads the NFL, allowing 15.8 points per game. before going into the Broncos game, that's what it was. 15. Denver scored 18 points on them, which is 3 more than they average, give up on an average day. But the real question is, why are they 3-5 if their defense is only giving up 15 points a game? Houston can't score more than 15 points? That's ridiculous. But that's where they're at. I mean, week 1 against the Rams, and it's not like the Rams defense, they're good, but it's not like, oh my God, this might be the best defense in the NFL. But you would have thought so. Houston didn't get a single touchdown the entire game. And then Jags, not a good defense. They only scored 10 points against the Jags. 1 touchdown. I get it. You could play a good game, but who's Jacksonville's Pete Carroll's a good coach. They got Max Crosby. They have the other guy that I keep forgetting on the other edge, Wilkins. They have pieces over there. And they play really good, and they're coached by Pete Carroll. Jacksonville's got Liam Cohen, offensive-minded guy, and there's not a ton of guys on that defense that you fear. There's people that were projected to be, superstars. What was it, Trayvon, or the number 1 overall pick 3 years ago? I think it was the year after Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, it was, because Stinky Finger got fired, and Trayvon Walker. They got guys like that, but they haven't, really became scary guys. Losing or only scoring 10 on Jacksonville. Has anybody in the NFL only scored 10 points on Jacksonville up to this point? Has Jacksonville been able to hold anybody to 10 points? Let's see, Jacksonville. Gamecast. Jaguars. No. They've been held to 12 points. Then they were held to 7 points. But look at this. The people that they've played, 26 points. No, 10 points. 10 points. I'm trying to see, is there any game where Jacksonville held their opponent? Yeah, Carolina, right here. It's the first one. Okay, so Jacksonville did that to Carolina week 1. But Carolina's just now starting to really get in their groove. They started the season very slow, very bad. 154 passing yards. Rico Dowdle only 3 carries. They also didn't have some of their weapons at receiver. Look at the difference between the Carolina Panthers from week 1 to now. That's a bad example. 40-9. Let me go to their last game. Box score 16-13. Bryce Young had 100 passing yards, but 100 passing yards. But look, this is the kind of game that the Broncos avoided today. At least Bo Nix, almost threw it for 200 yards, and getting held to 102 yards. That's 11 for 20. I mean, how did they do on third down? Let's see, third down efficiency. They were 4 for 10. We were 5 for 15. So this game right here is exactly what just happened to Denver. Forget the points. Oh, but there was 3 more, and no, forget that. I'm just talking about, for whatever reason, both defenses just had each other's number. I mean, the Panthers getting 104 passing yards. That's hilarious. 4 for 10 on third down. 7 for 13 for Green Bay. That's how that is. That's how it is in the NFL. That's just how it goes sometimes. So anyone want to explain what was going on? Because what is this season anymore? It's the tortoise and the hare principle. It's not who finishes fastest that matters most. It's who finishes strongest. Autismal. I like it. It's a transitional year. Reminds me of the 99-2000 season that bridged the gap between the 90s and 2000s dynasties. Carolina and Kansas City have the same records. Wow. That's crazy. But at the same time, like, if you would have said that going into this season, I would have said, of course they do. I thought Carolina was going to win their division. But no, like, I think Carolina is on the up and up. Like, they're starting, like, yeah, that was a bad game. But look, they've won 4 of their last 5 games. Okay? Yeah, it's Miami, Dallas, and the Jets. But I don't care. Because those teams are bad. And if the Panthers were bad, then they wouldn't be able to just beat the bad teams. And yeah, they barely beat the Dolphins and they barely beat the Cowboys and, you know, the Jets 16-3. I think that's exactly what our score was. 16-13. Look, they're not there yet. They're not even close. All I'm saying is their defense, and I'm going to say this until people start to believe it, but their defensive coordinator is the 3rd best defensive mind in the NFL. And the Panthers are only going to continue to get better. And if Bryce Young can just start playing better football, like, this is going to be a really good team. Like, look at this Atlanta win, 30-0. What did Atlanta do right? I mean, what did Bryce Young do? He only threw it for 121 yards. I thought for sure a 30-0 game would get him over that 100-yard mark. This is ridiculous. Is Bryce Young, like, seriously, at this point, wasn't there a game where he got hurt and they had to start Sam Darnold? What was the Sam Darnold game? Was it Buffalo? Let me see. Box score. Andy Dalton, 175 yards. It's not even just Bryce Young. That's insane, man. Is there one game where Bryce Young threw it for over 100 yards? Like, I didn't even mean to go down this rabbit hole, but 138. Holy crap. 138. This is crazy. Surely the Dallas game. I mean, the Cowboys. Yeah, almost 300 yards. Oh, no, wrong team. 199. Oh, my God. Even against the frickin' Dallas Cowboys. Oh, my gosh. That's the real test. Like, if you can't throw for 200 yards on the Dallas Cowboys, you have a problem. Box score. 198 yards against the Dolphins. Dude, am I about to break some major news? Because I'm going to get a picture of Bryce Young immediately and make a little thing. Bryce Young has not thrown for over 200 yards once this year, and it's going to blow up. That was the Miami game. Let's go to the New England game. See, box score. $150. I looked over here and I was like, oh, 203. 150. Why does Andy Dalton have like 60 yards in every game? And what are they doing? Are they bringing him in on 3rd down? It's kind of weird. It's like the 3rd game. All right. Well, we already tried the Atlanta game, so no need to check that. There's only 2 more left. Arizona. At this point, I already have a major story. Bryce Young, 328 yards. Okay. Why? The Cardinals are good. See, that's fucking, sorry for cussing. That's weird. Okay. That is like very, very weird. This guy can't throw over 200 yards in games that he wins 30-0 in games against the Dallas Cowboys. Then he goes against the Arizona Cardinals, who the Cardinals are, I mean, look, they're giving up passing yards wise. I think they're about 15 or 16 opponent passing yards per game. Arizona, they're 23rd. They're 23rd. So like they're the same as Tampa Bay. They're New England's 223. They're at 231. They're 7 yards more per game than San Francisco and New England. I mean, you go out there, 231 yards allowed per game. And what was it again? 328. Oh, he threw it 55 times. But still, like, damn, I mean, 320 passing yards. But look at this, Rico Dowdle. He wasn't involved. He wasn't involved in the game yet. So that's what's going on. The Panthers aren't throwing it 55 times, and they don't need to, because now they found out that they have the best running back in the NFL this year. People don't realize, like, Jonathan Taylor's been on everybody's thing, like, oh, Jonathan Taylor's the best running back in the NFL. Let me show you something, okay? This is currently, right, the rushing yard leaders in the NFL, okay? Share this tab instead. Look at this. This is rushing yards. Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, J.K. Dobbins. Well, he just played an extra game, so it's not fair. Rico Dowdle is really third, not J.K. Dobbins. Rico Dowdle, 735 yards, 132 yards from James Cook, and 130 yards from Jonathan Taylor. 130 yards from Jonathan Taylor. There's only one thing. Rico Dowdle, week 1. Rico Dowdle had 3 carries. Week 2, Rico Dowdle had 6 carries. Week 3, Rico Dowdle had 10 carries for 30 yards. Week 4, so week 4, I think this is when Rico Dowdle, 9 carries, 32 yards. So, like, look, Rico Dowdle wasn't even getting double-digit carries per game. I mean, it was, look, and they were 1-3, and Rico Dowdle was getting, between 3 and 7 or 3 and 9 carries. Not even like a part of the offense. And then here's a win, 27-24 over Miami. Let's see, Rico Dowdle. 206 yards on 23 carries. Wow. And guys, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. He's played 5 games. 1, 2, 3, 4 games. That's him not being a starter for almost 50% of this year. 50% of this year, Rico Dowdle has not been even a relevant part of the team. And now he's third. It's fourth now because JK, like I said, just got done with the game. It's third, and Rico Dowdle's third, and he's 130 yards away from James Cook and 130 160 yards away from Jonathan Taylor. 160 yards away from Jonathan Taylor in 50% of the games. I mean, you guys realize how crazy that is, right? And then it's like, oh, he had 200 yards. Of course, he's not going to do that again. He can't. He has 30 carries for 183 yards. But look at that, 30 carries. When's the last time you've seen a running back get 30 carries? And it's weird because, like, we saw week 2 against Arizona, they had Bryce Young threw it 55 times and he threw it for 346 yards and they lost. And now they're running it 30 times a game and winning by 3 instead of losing by 5. And what's really strange about that is typically you wouldn't see a team change their identity completely like that. Like, you go from like, yeah, we pass it 55 times a game, or 40 to 50. Like, we're not a good running team. That's why Chuba Hubbard has 10 carries and Rico Dowdle has 6. But outside of that, like, you see they're averaging 3.5 yards a carry. Even the carries Dowdle had, it was like 10 carries for 30 yards. It was very unimpressive. And then all of a sudden, Chuba Hubbard gets hurt, and they give it to Rico Dowdle as the lead back, and they figure out, oh, you have to let a running back get warmed up. This is the problem with running back by committee. I'm going to go with the hot hand. Sometimes you don't leave him in long enough to get hot. He has to get a feel for the game. And, after they have one series where you're not getting the results immediately, you pull him out, he gets cold again. That only works for some running backs. Like David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs got a good thing going, but clearly, like, Rico Dowdle, benefited from not being pulled out after, 2 carries per quarter. He really needed the workload because that's back-to-back games with almost 200 yards on the ground. Then you get to the Jets game, which would be Rico Dowdle's 3rd game as the full-time running back. And Chuba Hubbard was back healthy. And look, they're trying to do it. They're trying to split the workload. They're like, all right, well, Chuba Hubbard's healthy. We can't just like bench him now. So they get cute. And they split it almost evenly. But look, Rico Dowdle's got 80 yards. Chuba Hubbard, 14 carries for 31 yards. I mean, you guys can do math. That's 2 yards, 2.2 yards a carry. That's terrible. That is disgustingly gross. So then the Panthers have a decision to make. Are we going to continue to do this running back split the workload? And they go into the Buffalo game. And Rico Dowdle gets 8 carries. 54 yards. Chuba Hubbard, they give him 12. And I think that had more to do with the fact that they were getting blown out so bad that they didn't want to hurt Rico Dowdle. So they gave the carries to Chuba Hubbard. But, that was a terrible game. And one that they just want to flush down the toilet and forget about. Buffalo was coming off a bye week. And then here's Green Bay. The game that just happened, right? They're like, let's just get back to giving Rico Dowdle 25 carries. All right, I'll give you 2 touchdowns and 130 yards. Sound good enough? Sound fair enough? And that's how the Panthers got to 5-4. One guy, Rico Dowdle. And I never thought I'd say it. Like, Rico Dowdle's looking like an MVP. I'm not even kidding. The fact that he has the 3rd most rushing yards, and one of the games, I counted wrong because, look, he didn't even get used in the Bills game. So he's 3rd in the NFL, and he's got 1, 2, 3, But remember, the Jets game, they got cute because it was the first game that Chuba Hubbard came back from injury. So, I mean, he got half of a game. I mean, look, those other guys, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, they're not getting like pulled, right? They're workhorses. James Cook less than Jonathan Taylor, but for the most part, like like nobody's like splitting the workload with Jonathan Taylor. But that's what they did. So you got the Miami game, and then you got the Dallas game. That's 2. Then you get, I'll say, a half a game here. And then nothing here, really, because they didn't want to hurt him. And then a full game. So you got 3.5 games out of 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So these other guys they've played 9 games and they have 895, 867. Rico Dowdle has 3.5, basically. I mean, he was getting a little bit of carries, but we'll call it 4 just to be fair. We'll call it 4 even. I'll even give you 4.5. Fuck, even take 5. Who cares? These other guys have had almost 10 games, and you got a guy that's been running for 3.5 games, and he's in 3rd place. That's why I said I don't know, like, if Rico Dowdle can keep this up, I would be shocked because it would be one of the all-time great stories of the NFL. And I think it's worth remembering that this guy's only 27 years old. And something that's interesting is I remember where I was when Derrick Henry broke out, because my buddy in the Navy is a big Jags fan, and I was at his house watching the Titans-Jags game. Titans-Jags, and I remember Derrick Henry taking an outside run, 99 yards. Derrick Henry, 99-yard touchdown. And that was December 6, 2018. Okay. So here is that game. Titans won 30-0. And let's see what that box score looked like. By the way, Derrick Henry was on his way to being a bust. 17 carries for 238 yards and 4 touchdowns with a 99-yard touchdown. That's what Derrick Henry did. Okay. This is 2018, December. It's very similar, right? We're in November. 2018. This guy was drafted in 2016. Okay. So he was going into his 3rd year in the NFL, basically December, the 3rd year. 3rd year. Rico Dowdle is 27 years old in his 6th season. So yeah, it's a little bit later than Derrick Henry, but it's possible that this guy has been this good all along, and nobody gave him the opportunity to be the starting running back. I mean, he played with Dallas in 2020. I mean, Zeke was the 2020, the Dallas Cowboys in 2020. Let me just pick a random game and see the box score. Look at it. This is their rushing. Javonte Williams. Oh wait, that's this year. I thought it understood. I thought it understood exactly what I was doing when I clicked Rico Dowdle 2000. Well, let's just see. I mean, it'll tell me he played 15, carries 7. He had 7 carries. Okay, he had 7 carries. He must have gotten hurt. Why did he get 7 carries? Not sure. But 2021, he doesn't have a bar. he doesn't have a bar. Let me see if his bio gives us any information. This guy's turning into one of the great mysteries this year. That's his bio? His biography? Doesn't it have to have words? Let me see. Where did Rico Dowdle? I remember him, but I'm just wording it this way. Where did he come from to see if like there's an article that had been written about him. Rico Dowdle, 5 things to know about Rico Dowdle. Okay, as grades from various publications trickled in on the heels of free agency, the Panthers consistently received an A for a particular late edition. Running back Rico Dowdle. Oh yeah, remember Jonathan Brooks suffered the ACL tear last season. That's crazy that Jonathan Brooks, he was the best running back in the draft 2 years ago. And he'll be out all year this year. He was coming off an injury and then he re-injured it, but it's crazy that like Dowdle was like a contingency plan. And they also paid Chuba Hubbard because of how well he did. And now the Panthers they're like, this is a great problem to have, but this is crazy. This is like when the Seahawks paid Matt Flynn $100 million and Russell Wilson was drafted in the 4th round or whatever it was, and 3rd round, and then all of a sudden was balling out in the preseason. They're like, I don't know. How are we not going to play this guy? And it's like, sorry, like, who cares who gets the money as long as we have a good quarterback, right? Carolina general manager Dan Morgan agreed to terms with the former Cowboys running back Dowdle to a 1-year deal. The former undrafted free agent spent 4 seasons in Dallas and became a starter in 2024. So he became a starter last year. Dowdle is a Carolina boy through and through. He spent his childhood in South Carolina. In 8th grade, the Dowdle family moved to Asheville, where the running back attended high school. He committed to South Carolina for college and spent 4 years in Columbia, 2016 to 2019. Isn't Columbia an Ivy League school? Posting 2 seasons of 650 rushing yards with Gamecocks, Dowdle also proved his prowess as a receiving threat out of the backfield, averaging 15.5 receptions per season. Still, nothing crazy, right? 650 rushing yards, nothing like insane. Dowdle's senior year of high school, this is high school. I thought we were talking about college. Yeah, they said Gamecocks. Why are we going? Okay, we're going from college to high school. It's kind of strange. Dowdle's senior year of high school, he switched to quarterback. The offense still operated under a rush-first mentality, using Dowdle as a dual-threat weapon. As a result, he set a Western North Carolina record for most touchdowns. 63 total touchdowns. The quarterback ran for 51 touchdowns. What? 11 passing touchdowns and even caught a potential 51 rushing touchdowns. Imagine how good he had to have been in high school. That's like, yeah, this guy's going to the NFL type of production. Dowdle set those records for AC Reynolds High School in Asheville, which has produced plenty of big names. In a 12-year span, that school has been the home of country music artist Luke Combs, Chicago Bears head coach Ben Johnson, Caleb Presley. He's the guy that does Sunday Conversations, country music artist Chase Rice, and Rico Dowdle. Damn, that city's got it going. Dowdle's coming off his best season in the pros. 1,079 rushing yards, 12th most in the NFL, and he hauled in 39 catches for 249 yards and had 5 total touchdowns. In league history, there's only ever been 7 duos of 1,000-yard rushers sharing the same backfield. Last time it happened was when Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram were on the team. I don't know. I don't like considering quarterbacks when I'm doing this stat, because there's a lot of times where quarterback runs and it's not designed. I think it's a lot more difficult when you have two running backs that both went over 1,000 on designed runs, because that's what we're really looking at. We're not looking at like a third down where there's times where a quarterback can just take off for 40 yards. And it's like, that wasn't a designed run. So I don't know if that should count to how well you run the football. It's a good thing, but when we're talking about this specific stat, I think of how good you run the football on a run play. With Dowdle signing, he and Hubbard will have the chance to become the 8th duo if the two can repeat their 2024. Honestly, they might. They might. I don't know if Dowdle if Chuba Hubbard is going to get the touches he needs, but according to Next Gen Stats, Dowdle averaged 3.5 yards after contact, good for 5th most in the NFL among qualifying backs, 200 carries minimum. Hubbard wasn't far behind, 3.2. Not only was Dowdle picking up extra yards, he was doing so consistently. According to Ian Hartitz of Fantasy Life, Dowdle reached 3+ yak on 51% of his carries, the highest rate in the league. Hubbard did so at 48.4%, 4th in the league. Wow. He got 3 yards after the carry on 51% of his carries. So I get it. Because you can average 5 yards a carry, but that doesn't mean you get 5 yards every carry, because, that's 7 runs of 2 yards and then 1 15-yard run, 1 18-yard run, 3 more 3 yards runs, 1 40-yard run. And then at the end of the year, it averages. But, it's like us, it feels like, how is it that this guy's averaging 5 yards carry? It doesn't feel like it when you watch the games, but a couple times every game, he breaks 1 for 30, 40, pumps that average up. But with Dowdle, he reached 3+ yards per carry on over half of his carries. So his yards per carry wasn't just amplified. I mean, it was 3.5, but it wasn't just boosted because of a couple 70-yard runs. No, over half of his runs, he truly did go over 3 yards, and that was the highest rate of the league. You could say the writing was on the wall with Rico Dowdle. And if there's one thing we shouldn't do, we shouldn't Rico doubt him at all. Or Rico Dowdle. I tried. But yeah, I forgot why we were talking about that because the Carolina Panthers, they're an interesting team. But even with the way they're running the football, look, 16-13 against Green Bay. Look, I like that they're leaning into their strengths, but I'm worried why it has to be 55 passes or 30 rushes. I want to know why it can't be 25 and 25. Is there room to become more balanced? Because I think it's really weird that we have to go back to week 2 to find Bryce Young passing for more than 100 yards. That shouldn't be a thing. Balanced offenses run the ball and pass the ball. The most balanced offense in the league is the Green Bay Packers, usually. I mean, any given look, let me just show you. Look, Green Bay Packers. This is what makes the Packers so good. It's one of their strengths. They're extremely balanced. Look at this. I didn't plan this. Look at this. 22 passes, 25 carries. Is that not, look at 188 yards, 78 yards on the ground. How did Green Bay score 27? That looks like it was too easy against a really good Lions team, but let's go to the next week because that's kind of a weird one. But still balanced in running and passing. Look, 31 passes, 30 rushes. Does it get more balanced unless you go 30 for 30 like Jameis Winston? But look, 292 passing yards. 292 passing yards, 135 rushing yards. This is what a balanced offense is. I don't know why the Panthers need to pass the ball 55 times or run it 30 times, and Bryce Young goes 7 for 13 for 112 yards passing. So maybe that's something that they can work on moving, forward their next game coming up here. That's going to be against the Saints. That's a really great opportunity to practice this thing. They got to figure out how to get more balanced. They got to figure out how to get Bryce Young more successful in the passing game. They also got to figure out how they're going to deal with this Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard. It's a good problem to have, but it is a problem. Whether it's good or not, it is a problem because Rico Dowdle, I think he's showing you that when you give him 10 carries, 12 carries, and give the other guy 10 carries, 12 carries, his efficiency goes down drastically. He may be one of those guys that needs to stay in the game and feel it out and get 20 carries, 22 carries to break the game open and get 175 yards rushing. And if that's possible, is that something you want to risk in the pursuit of not, keeping the morale high for Chuba Hubbard? I mean, these are the tough decisions coaches need to make. But what we do know is they need to become a more balanced team. And the Saints are a great team to do that. They got the Saints, Atlanta. And if they can win those next two games, Carolina is going to be 7-4. All they have to do is beat the Saints in Atlanta, and they're 7-4. And then they have a game against the Niners and the Rams. And look, as a 7-4 team, there's going to be people that are like, they're legit. There's going to be people that are like, no, they're not. But isn't it cool if they do get to 7-4 and beat the Saints and Falcons, that they have an opportunity to end that conversation? Games, because the 49ers game, guess what? 7:15 p.m. November 24th, which is 7/14/21. That's Thursday. That's a Thursday because 21 days. No, that's a Sunday. What is November 24th? If today is the 7th and it's Friday, that means 2 weeks from now, it would be the 21st on a Friday, which means the 22nd would be Saturday and the 23rd would be a Sunday, which would make the 24th a Monday. Yep, Monday Night Football. So, yeah, Carolina wins their next two games, and all of a sudden, everyone's like having this debate about if they're for real. And if they clean this up and figure out how to get this balance going, all of a sudden, it's Monday Night Football in front of the world. If they beat the 49ers, the players know they'll have a chance to end this narrative once and for all. But all right, I got to get out of here because I got to run to the gas station. They close at 2 a.m. But thanks, guys, for listening to my post-game recap. Tomorrow, I'm going to be going live, going through all of my predictions for Sunday football and hitting major news. So thank you for watching. I will see you guys on the next stream. Have a good night. Broncos got the dub, so we can't be too mad about that, right? Let's see. All right. I will see you guys on the next stream. See ya.